MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by The Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. All right, what's going on? What's going on? How we doing? Hope everybody had a good weekend. Not a whole lot to really go over this morning, other than us having a strong supply run at the open, creating a wide neutral zone spread. And so we've been just hanging around inside of that spread for the most part overnight, but we are overall dropping the inventory and dropping the supply. Got a mechanical area that we are seeing a supply response to on my hourly chart. Is this hourly? Oh no, it's 30 minutes. 30-minute chart. Doesn't matter. So that's mechanical. Right now there's a mechanical supplies area off of that 1560 zone. When I zoom in, I can also see that on the 3-minute, as well as, of course, it's going to be on every other time frame. Just structurally, I can see that supply area where I do have some automation sitting there. We are open. Nice inventory response off of PR -1. And before I get started trading for myself, I just want to go ahead and say that you can see that I'm starting really to lean back into Sierra chart. So every month I'm going to have at least one Sierra chart video in a series pretty much titled Sierra Chart Tip of the Month. Now also with that, I can't really say too much right now, but there is something else that's going to come along with that if you're interested in Sierra chart, you definitely want to pay attention to. Stay locked into, make sure you don't miss one of those episodes, because got something that I'm excited about that's coming in the near future. So definitely stay tuned into all things on the MV3 Trader channel. All right, so let me lock in. And I had a couple triggers that I missed. Nice supply response off A1. We'll make our way back off that inventory zone. Should have some pressure built off of that. What I refer to as closing the door. There we go. I really got my eyes on that 1560 area. Before that, we have some automation that I'll be see if we can, break back through. VWAP being one of those automation points, so we're meeting VWAP right now. Supply response off of VWAP. This is still trading mechanical from my perspective. Read that as a front run of that 1560 area. Didn't mark it off, but the volume does start to taper off after that 1560. It's pushing right through it. Let's break. It grabbed some quick inventory off that 1560. Took us to that 1570 volume gap. Haven't visited A1 in a while. Created some liquidity below 1560 off of that. Grab the inventory down there. Let's see, where do we take it from here? That was a nice little inventory response off of that liquidity pool. Actually, need to come up with a label for that. It took me right outside of my trigger zone. I didn't get to jump on the ride, but I had to call an audible there. So still saying this thing trade mechanical. Into an area where we're gonna budget, starting to budget. Holding inventory off of 74. It's like the low of that, the low of that is 74.25. Decent supply response off of 1585. So these are kind of the same value areas of interest that we saw Friday in Friday's A period. Maybe even B period, I don't exactly remember, but still a ton of interest in these areas. That wholesale is taking advantage of. So at this point, well, I don't really want to speculate too much. Zoom out and look at a 3-minute. The way it's printed on the 3-minute could lead one to believe that we could continue to see higher prices. We are at the lows of last week's range, so that gives us plenty of space above where we're trading now, if we want to maintain that daily range, that overall range. It looks like we're gonna chop our way up there if that does happen. Which has basically been the tempo over the last couple of weeks. If memory serves correctly, very few momentum plays. I've seen very few momentum plays during A and B period. Definitely, well, NQ anyway. I'm not having a look at the ES, but NQ is definitely giving us price action to play the emotions, to trigger emotions by the way it's printing. And in my opinion, that's what really creates the liquidity. It's triggering the emotions. Balance break. Did see it should be some liquidity up here. See if they want to run it. Still giving us that budgeting print. Go. Had to grab one more quick little, grab some inventory one more time before. They took the elevator, so yep, still maintaining the chop. I would say, depending on the frequency that you hold, there's great opportunities to take scalps. You can there's great, some good opportunities to hold it. Now you're gonna have to hold through a couple of waves, and you gotta probably gonna have to, if you're trying to hold a longer position, you'll mostly be fighting with your emotions more than anything else. By design. But even with the way that it's printed, it's giving us some good opportunities. But of course, that's going to be based off of whatever beliefs you're holding on to. got 10 minutes before B period. Looks like we're about 15 points away from the session high. It's a bit early for a front run, but we are seeing a supply response up here just below 104. It's a nice inventory, broken inventory base off my last tick print. That was 1592. Dropping the inventory back to that inventory zone around 1580. Still holding the same theme. Slowly, taking our shop to our budgeting areas to higher prices, and then once we're done with that, we're gonna drop the inventory, give us a nice little V pattern, run back to supply, and then we once again lift the supply. Of course, all of this is easy to see in hindsight. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like, I knew 100% that this was gonna happen, but it does make sense. That's the only reason that I even mentioning it. On the basis of how mechanical we're seeing, structure being created. I say every session typically has a theme to it, and that's been the theme for today. And for me personally, it's been beneficial to catch that theme as quickly as possible. And it doesn't change how I trade my strategy or the strategy that I use, but it could affect maybe how aggressive I am. Basically looking at the theme and seeing if it's in alignment with my strategy. So we at that session high area. Just above 116. Slowly making our way there, taking the stairs. I would personally like to see some momentum take us through that, but it doesn't have to be. Supply response. Almost. All right, new high. Let's see if we catch some momentum. took the elevator to PR+1. Called a supply response, a mechanical supply response off that 128 area. It kind of took my mind to, as I was watching that, like the different ways of participating in this environment. And just for me, out of general curiosity, I like to look at other traders who share their perspectives and their ideas, their beliefs on the various social media platforms. Mainly YouTube is where I see stuff. And then, I see, so the general thing that I witness is the level of complexity that traders put on this environment. So from the way that I look at it is that as long as it's working for you, do what you do. So, I'll see a lot of people, kind of express judgment towards people who do something different than them. I don't really, hold that same frequency. I say if you found something that works for you, have at it. However, I just give it from the way that I approach it. If I find something that works for me, I don't try to put it on other people as that's what they should be doing, right? It's that I have discovered the universal truth. Because I have just discovered what's true for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be true for anyone else. And really, that's supposed to be the whole idea of being a participant in this environment, that you're supposed to be trading with an edge. So if you're trading with an edge, if you have found your edge, how can it really be your edge if it's supposed to work for someone else? Your edge is supposed to only really work for you. That's there are technical edges that you can share, and it could help someone else discover their edge, and someone else can actually use your technical edge. But when I think about an edge, I think about something unique that the individual trader holds that no one else does, or very other few people does. So, and what this all goes back to is how simple or complex your strategy and your the way that you analyze these markets. It can be like my strategy, my technique is very simple. It's just based off of structure and energy, aka price action, with a couple of awareness, with a little bit of awareness to some, I call it automation, but some algorithms that I have kind of discovered by way of indicators, right? Just manipulating indicators. But I see some people who do way more. They pay attention to fundamentals, and they look at all kind of other stuff and all kind of different market internals, and if it works for them, it's not that just because they're doing something more or less than what I'm doing, it doesn't mean that they're wrong, or that they are doing it messed up, or they're not doing it the right way. It just means that they have found what works for them, and as long as it works for them, that's cool. So it's going to depend on the type of person that you are. So if you are the type of person who looking at all that stuff helps you focus on the markets and focus on what you're supposed to be doing, versus keeping it simple, but you lose your focus when it's too simple. Like, for example, I struggle with trading ES, even though ES is structurally, it's more consistent typically than NQ. But I struggle with focusing on it because it's just too slow. And that's based off of, I would say for myself, I think that's more so based off of a belief that kind of buried deep inside, and it's not worth for me. It's not worth it to me to actually try to put a lot of energy into doing something about that, I can just continue to trade NQ. But I trade NQ because it matches the frequency that I currently hold. So if the frequency that you hold has you looking at all the other stuff and it's working for you, keep doing it. Or if it's too much for you, then you might need to simplify what you're doing. I personally like simple strategies, but to each their own. For me, there is no right and wrong. It's an individual thing. What works for you and what doesn't. So we have transitioned into B period. Not much excitement. We're still holding the same theme. Still, really volatility wise, there's not much of a change. So let me go ahead and mark that off in my journal. And I think it's safe to say that I am done for the day. Like I said, I typically like to take it easy on Mondays and Fridays. See what kind of energy we're bringing into the week, and then just close it out easy on Friday. Speaking of beliefs, I used to have beliefs that were counterproductive or counter-serving to me before about Mondays and Fridays, but where they're like the opportunities are not as great on Mondays and Fridays. However, once I allowed myself to kind of see the opposite side of that belief, I discovered the error in those beliefs, and that I actually missed a lot of good opportunities. There's one Friday I remember, I was overseas and there was an event that I attended thinking that, well, it's Friday, it's probably not going to be any good opportunities. And I was kind of struggling in this period of my trading journey, having a hard time, being consistent and getting good trades on the trades that I did take. And this event came up and I was like, well, it's Friday. I am not worried about trading it because we don't usually get good price action on Friday. And that Friday was like one of the best setups. I got one of the cleanest setups I ever got once I went back and looked at it in hindsight. And that was the tipping point for me to where I kind of started to question my beliefs. Now, also understanding that, there will always be an anomaly in these environments because they're ran in a way to create or to encourage the idea that it's completely random. But I mean, with there being so many automation, there being so many algorithms involved in this market, it can't be that random because you need the information that you would use to build those algorithms has to be consistent. Even the algorithms that are used for market making. Now you can throw variables in there to throw some randomness in there, moments of randomness in there. But even with a variable, it's not that random. It's just, you just threw a variable in there. And now we're gonna, so that there's a pattern even in that. There's some consistency even in the variable that you're using for, or to create, the sense of randomness, for lack of better words. So now I'm starting to see a sort of a potential theme change to where this time where we lifted the supply, we didn't hold it this time. And we brought it back to our previous shop. That shop was short-lived. Now we're back below A1. taking supply back to A1. So let me see if we get a supply response at A1, and we do. Now the question would be, do we hold this or do we continue to search for cheaper inventory? Have we decided to be done with the supply or quit lifting the supply? And by we, I mean wholesale. Showing some interest above A1. Currently squeezed at 136. Back to the session high. Yep, so that's kind of, as I mentioned, the variable. That's one of those instances where we're going to throw the variable in there because it was too consistent. And now we need to inject a variable. Makes me think of algebra. Another thought that just hit me is how a lot of times I hear people talking about how much of a waste of time traditional schooling is, but there's a purpose and an intent behind it. But it's only, I don't want to go too deep in this, but you know, I just put it this way. I see a lot of what I gathered from public school play out to be useful in subtle ways in my adult life. So, you know, basically whatever you feel is a waste of time has more to do with what you hold inside than anything else. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, that was just a side note that came up for me. So right now we're kind of starting to print a potential shift. Let me just call it a shift. We don't necessarily have to change the trend or anything like that. We have been running the supply for a while, so it would make sense that we at least take a break. But again, these are just opinions. It doesn't mean that that's what the market is going to do. This is definitely not trading advice. Make sure it's been a while since I put that reminder out. This is definitely not trading advice. Stick to your plan, stick to your analysis. I think that's the overall theme that I always talk about, is doing what works best for you. I have my opinion. It could be complete trash for what you're trying to do. Because I could absolutely be wrong in my analysis. And by the way this is printing, we'll see. So we're back at the session high. We've broken some temporary balance overall balance would be around this session high and around this supply zone between that supply and inventory. Inventory is around 140. Now we're making our way back to inventory. And overall, these are sort of out of balance. So, it's kind of also why it would make sense logically for us to at least take a break, bring the overall picture back in balance. But anything is possible. Now we're starting to put a little more energy into dropping the inventory. Finding cheaper inventory to slice right through an automation point. Onsite Capital would say we are starting to see evidence of a frequency shift. Coming back to our overnight high, we front running that overnight high. Grab some inventory off of 120. Let's see what supply area do we take that back to? And one thing we can know for sure, and this is not like anything that's brilliant or anything, is that there will be always a supply and inventory response. Just the biggest question is, where is that going to be? And then, I keep it right there. All right, supply response off of A1. Inventory response at the top of that inventory zone, that quick inventory zone. Automation is being triggered. Back to inventory. How long do we maintain this shop before we either drop the inventory or lift the supply? Back to supply. Okay, honestly, the market going in either direction from here. Say that more specifically, I can honestly see price being carried or taken to in either direction from here. The market. So we're lifting supply. Back above our automation points. Some interesting volume at 140 and 144, between 140 to 144. Seeing interest build in this area. Overall, the picture is still mechanical. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap my session up for the day. Appreciate everybody for coming through. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, make sure that you're still, something exciting is coming that I'm just got working in the background. So make sure you keep tapping in so you don't miss it. And on that note, I hope everybody have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week. And until next time, trade it easy.